So I'd like to talk about some of the problem-solving strategies that I used for my assignment in looking at time management. And I did a little bit of research on the problem-solving strategies, and I found this kind of neat diagram on creative problem solving. Let's hold it up so you had a look. And it starts with the first step, which is generating. And the idea here is that you generate and do fact-finding. So this might be kind of like your brainstorming session where you're trying to generate as much information as you can. Then you move into conceptualize. And this is when you want to define the problem. So this is when you look at, as I did with my software example, that I looked at the criteria that I need, my final solution. What does that final solution look like, and what criteria is it going to have? So that's kind of defining the problem a little more clearly. Then optimization. You want to be optimizing and evaluating. So this is now you've kind of gone through this problem-solving process, and you've got lots of different options. Now you want to evaluate those options and pick the best one. And finally, implementing. And of course, implementing is that you're going to take action. So you've evaluated, you've picked what you think is the best solution, and now you're taking action and you're going to move forward with that. So that was the creative problem solving. And then, as I kind of worked through my problem of looking at this time management issue, I really started with the working backwards strategy. And by working backwards, yeah, I absolutely started thinking about the final solution and the final tool that I would use. What did it look like? What were the criteria that my software needed to have? And I did have a list of things that were important to me. So, for example, I needed to sync with my cell phone. I need to be able to use it anywhere, at any time. I wanted to be able to move from various computers, because I know in a school setting you're not always working on the same computer. Sometimes you're here and there in computer labs. So I didn't want to be restricted to just being on one computer. So I wanted something that was going to be easy for me to use and that I could use on a daily basis and create a routine and get very comfortable with it. So yeah, that was kind of working backwards. I kind of really did start this process with that strategy. And then I moved to what I believe was the means and analysis. And that's meaning that you kind of look at where you're now and where your goal is, and which I did that process. And for me, and then you kind of come up with little steps along the way. So you can kind of think of this strategy as being a chain, and you're kind of linking the chain and adding links to the chain. You're always kind of moving forward towards your goal. And so for me, I felt maybe this looked a little bit kind of like a fishbone diagram. And I started, as you know, with this paper calendar, which you've already seen, the paper calendar. And then I started looking at softwares, and I kind of would hit dead ends often. So I looked at one called Doodle, but I didn't really like Doodle. It didn't, I didn't think it was going to be the right fit for me. I looked at one called Verb. You know, I did look at the option of just using an Excel spreadsheet. That's a great way to keep track of lots of information on spreadsheets. But ultimately, I wanted something to integrate with my cell phone, so that wasn't a great fit. There is Outlook, Microsoft Outlook, but it wasn't a good fit for me. It was a dead end because Outlook is only on one computer. You can't carry it to multiple computers, so that didn't work for me. And then I looked at a couple more software, and I felt like I was always getting a little bit closer to my goal. So for example, here, when I started looking at Smartsheet, it's a project management software, and I thought it was going to work really well. It was a bit more in depth than what I needed. It didn't have all the calendar options that I liked, but I felt like a pretty close to reaching my end goal. And then I got really excited when I found this one, which is Remember the Milk, which is kind of like a to-do list and task list that you can prioritize, and it's an app on your cell phone as well on the computer. And then I believe my final result is Google, and using Google Calendar and linking it with my Gmail, with my email account, and then using the Google Cloud so you can access that information anywhere. So yeah, I kind of saw that I started with where I was now, with my end goal in mind, and I felt like I was just always kind of moving and trying things. There's a little bit of trial and error, and getting closer.